It was a quiet morning in the little neighborhood where Alex lived. The sun was just peeking over the rooftops, painting the streets in soft gold and orange. Birds chirped in the trees, and a gentle breeze made the leaves dance. Alex loved mornings like this. They were calm, peaceful, and the perfect time to enjoy his iPad Pro. Alex had spent years saving up for the iPad. It wasn't just any gadget, it was his window to the world. He could draw, read, play games, and even attend online classes on it. Every morning, he would sit by the big window in his living room, iPad in hand, headphones on, completely absorbed in his little digital world. He felt safe, creative, and free. But today felt different. Not because of the weather, which was perfect, nor because of the iPad, which worked perfectly. Something in the air felt heavy, like a storm was quietly gathering far away. Alex didn't know it yet, but that storm was about to knock on his front door. Across the street lived Mrs. Karen Mitchell, or as everyone in the neighborhood secretly called her, HOA Karen. She was the kind of person who noticed every little thing about everyone's house, lawn, and even the color of the curtains. People whispered that she had been part of the Homeowners Association for over a decade and loved to enforce rules, sometimes rules that didn't even exist. Today, Karen was already out in her yard, sunglasses on, a clipboard in hand. She walked slowly, scanning the houses, her eyes sharp and unblinking. To anyone else, it might have looked like she was just enjoying the sunshine, but Alex knew better. She was always on the lookout for something, anything, that could be controlled, corrected, or complained about. Alex glanced up from his iPad, just as Karen paused at the edge of her lawn and peered at his house. Something about the way she squinted made Alex uneasy. She wasn't just looking, she was studying, calculating, like a hawk eyeing its prey. He quickly looked down at his iPad, pretending to be engrossed in his digital drawing, but a little knot of worry had already formed in his stomach. The morning went on like this, with the neighborhood still calm and quiet, but Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this day was different. The peace he usually felt was starting to feel fragile, almost as if it could be broken by something small, yet powerful. He tried to ignore it and turned back to his iPad. Today, he was working on a new illustration, a city skyline at sunset, with glowing lights in the windows and little people walking on the streets. His fingers moved quickly over the screen, adding colors and shadows, losing himself in the creative flow. The world outside could wait, this was his time, his bubble of calm. Then, the mail arrived. Usually, it was just bills, advertisements, or maybe a postcard from a friend. But today, it was something different. Among the usual envelopes was a crisp, official-looking letter. It had the Homeowners Association logo on the top. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He opened it carefully. The words on the page made his stomach drop. It was from HOA Karen. The letter complained about his iPad Pro. It said that certain electronics, including iPads, tablets, and other devices that emit disruptive energy, were not allowed under the neighborhood's rules. Alex reread the sentence twice, thinking it was a joke. But it wasn't. Karen had actually written that. Alex leaned back in his chair, staring at the letter in disbelief. He had always known Karen was strict, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. His iPad, the one tool that allowed him to create, learn, and connect with the world, was now suddenly illegal. He felt a mix of anger, confusion, and fear. How could someone think an iPad was dangerous? How could the Homeowners Association even have the power to ban it? And most importantly, what did this mean for him? Would he have to give it up? The thought alone made his chest tighten. Across the street, Karen was still watching. Alex felt like she could see every expression on his face, every twitch of worry. It was almost as if she was waiting for him to react, to make a mistake, to show weakness. He quickly put the letter down and tried to act normal, but the tension in the air was impossible to ignore. Alex decided to take a deep breath and step outside. He needed to clear his head. The morning sun was warm on his skin, and the gentle breeze felt calming. But no matter how beautiful the day was, he couldn't escape the feeling that this was only the beginning. Something bigger, more ridiculous, and more stressful was about to unfold. As he looked around the quiet street, he noticed his neighbors going about their own mornings, unaware of the battle that was about to erupt. Dogs barked, kids rode their bikes, and the mailman waved. Everything seemed normal, except for him and the letter in his pocket. Little did Alex know, his iPad Pro wasn't just a tool for drawing or entertainment anymore. It had become a symbol of personal freedom, creativity, and the small pleasures in life that HOA Karen wanted to control. And that, more than anything, was something she couldn't allow. The calm of the morning was over. A storm was coming, and Alex could already hear the faint rumble of it on the horizon. The day after the letter arrived, Alex woke up feeling uneasy. He had tried to ignore it last night, scrolling through social media and pretending the HOA notice didn't exist. But the words kept replaying in his mind: electronics that emit disruptive energy are prohibited. How could a simple iPad, something that hardly even made a sound, be disruptive? He sat at his kitchen table with a cup of coffee, staring at the letter again. The envelope looked harmless enough, but its contents were insane. Alex's brain tried to reason it out. Maybe it was a mistake? Maybe HOA Karen had confused his iPad with something else? But deep down, he knew better. Karen didn't make mistakes. She made rules. And she enforced them, even if they were completely absurd. Across the street, HOA Karen was already in action. Alex noticed her peeking through the blinds of her house. She wasn't just walking around this time, she was taking notes. Tiny scraps of paper poked out from her clipboard like feathers in a bird's nest. Every time she scribbled something, Alex felt like she was planning a secret operation specifically targeting him. Then came the next letter. Alex didn't want to open it, but curiosity won. He tore it open and unfolded the paper. This one was worse. It had a list, an official-looking list of banned electronics, and yes, the iPad Pro was right at the top. The language was serious, almost threatening. Residents are required to remove any device listed above within 7 days or face fines and legal action. Alex laughed nervously, but it quickly turned into a groan. He could already picture Karen marching into his house, clipboard in hand, inspecting his living room for illegal devices. The thought was ridiculous, almost cartoonish, but the letter made it clear Karen thought she could do it. Determined not to panic, Alex decided to talk to his neighbors. Maybe someone else had received a letter? Maybe someone else had already been banned from using a blender or a smartphone? He stepped outside and waved at Mrs. Thompson, the sweet lady 2 houses down. "Hey, have you gotten any crazy letters from HOA Karen?" he asked cautiously. Mrs. Thompson blinked. "Oh, that? Yes, I got one last week about my garden lights. Apparently, they were emitting unsafe energy." Can you believe it? Alex's jaw dropped. She's banning garden lights now? And iPads? Mrs. Thompson shrugged. Honestly, I just pretend I don't see her notices. It's easier that way. Alex knew it wasn't going to be that easy for him. This was his iPad Pro, his prized possession, his personal escape from the world. He couldn't just pretend Karen didn't exist. That afternoon, he tried to continue his usual routine. He pulled out the iPad and opened a drawing app, hoping to lose himself in colors and shapes. But every time he tapped the screen, he felt a pang of anxiety. What if Karen had spies? What if she was watching? What if she somehow found a loophole to take the iPad away? Just as he was starting to relax, he heard a knock at the door. His heart skipped a beat. He peeked through the peephole and saw HOA Karen, holding her clipboard, wearing her sunglasses, looking every bit like a general inspecting her troops. Alex swallowed hard and opened the door. Karen's smile was tight, controlled, and somehow terrifying. "Good afternoon, Alex," she said, her voice smooth but icy. "I'm here to make sure you understand the new HOA rules about electronics." Alex blinked. I think I understand them perfectly," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. "They don't make any sense." Karen tilted her head. "Sense is irrelevant when it comes to safety. Your iPad emits energy. That energy can affect the harmony of our neighborhood. I'm simply enforcing the rules." Alex wanted to laugh, but it came out as a nervous cough. "Energy? It's just a tablet. I use it for drawing and schoolwork. Karen shook her head. Excuses won't change the law. Consider this a friendly warning. Remove it immediately, or face consequences. She turned on her heel and left, clipboard tapping against her side. Alex closed the door and leaned against it, feeling a mix of frustration, disbelief, and determination. How could one person cause so much chaos over something so small? That night, Alex couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Karen's strange obsession with control. He thought about his iPad, about creativity, about personal freedom. He realized this wasn't just about a tablet. This was about standing up to someone who wanted to dictate every tiny detail of his life. As the clock ticked past midnight, Alex made a decision. He wasn't going to let Karen win. His iPad was not just a device, it was part of his life, and he wasn't going to give it up. Little did he know, the battle with HOA Karen was only beginning. The letters, the warnings, the strange rules, they were just the opening act. And as Alex drifted off to sleep, he had no idea how absurd, frustrating, and hilarious the next few days would become. The calm of his neighborhood was officially over. A storm of ridiculousness, stubbornness, and confrontation was brewing, and Alex was right in the middle of it. The next morning, the neighborhood was buzzing, but not with birds or sunshine. It was buzzing with gossip. Alex had barely stepped outside when he noticed whispers floating through the air like leaves on the wind. It seemed that HOA Karen's new obsession with electronics had become the main topic on every porch, driveway, and sidewalk. Mrs. Thompson was talking to Mr. Patel across the street. "Did you hear about Alex's iPad?" she asked, her voice a mix of shock and amusement. "Karen says it's dangerous." Mr. Patel shook his head slowly. "Dangerous? It's a tablet. Next, she'll outlaw toasters." Alex tried to keep walking calmly, pretending he wasn't listening. But it was impossible. Everyone in the neighborhood seemed to have already heard about the iPad ban, and everyone had an opinion. Some were quietly sympathetic, others openly entertained, and a few were downright scared, as if Karen could ban their own homes next. Even the kids were talking about it. Little Timmy from next door had drawn a cartoon of Karen chasing Alex with a giant magnifying glass, shouting, "No iPads allowed." Alex tried not to laugh, but a small smile escaped. It was ridiculous, but somehow also terrifying. Karen could make even the most normal things feel like a violation of some imaginary law. Alex returned to his house and peeked through his window. Sure enough, Karen was out again, clipboard in hand. Today, she was checking everyone's trash cans. "Are you kidding me?" Alex muttered under his breath. "Trash cans now?" But Karen was methodical, precise, and completely convinced of her own righteousness. To her, this was important work, keeping the neighborhood safe and harmonious. Alex realized that arguing with her directly might be useless. She wasn't just enforcing rules, she was creating rules on the spot. By noon, the neighborhood WhatsApp group exploded. Screenshots of HOA Karen's letters were shared, emojis flew across messages, and everyone was speculating what absurd law would come next. Some neighbors were serious, asking if they should remove their own devices. Others were sarcastic, joking that Karen would probably outlaw refrigerators next because they emit too much energy. Alex felt torn. On one hand, he wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all. On the other, he felt a growing frustration. This wasn't just silly rules, this was personal. His iPad Pro wasn't just a tablet, it was his creativity, his learning, his connection to the world. And now, thanks to Karen, it had become a symbol of rebellion. As the day went on, Alex noticed subtle changes in the neighborhood. Some people walked a little straighter, as if trying to avoid drawing Karen's attention. Mailboxes were checked twice before opening, and someone even whispered that a new Karen patrol might be forming. The paranoia was spreading faster than wildfire. Alex decided it was time to take action. Sitting down with his iPad, he started documenting everything: letters, photos, screenshots, and notes about Karen's behavior. He realized he needed proof, not just for himself but in case this went further. The more he documented, the more he understood that HOA Karen wasn't just overstepping boundaries, she was crossing a line into ridiculous obsession. By evening, word had spread that Alex was fighting back. Some neighbors quietly admired him, others watched anxiously. Karen, of course, remained completely oblivious, or maybe she was counting on everyone being afraid of her. Either way, Alex knew this wasn't just about an iPad anymore. It was about standing up for what was right, even when the other person seemed unstoppable. And in a neighborhood like this, where gossip spread faster than the morning sun, taking a stand meant risking ridicule, confrontation, and, of course, Karen's wrath. That night, Alex sat at his window, iPad in hand, thinking about the coming days. The neighborhood was buzzing, everyone was watching, and the battle lines were quietly being drawn. He knew that sooner or later, Karen would make her next move, and when she did, he had to be ready. The calm of his mornings was gone. The neighborhood was alive with whispers, glances, and silent support. And in that chaos, Alex felt a strange sense of excitement. This wasn't just a fight for an iPad. It was a fight for his little corner of the world, and he was determined not to back down. The next morning, Alex woke up with a sense of purpose. The chaos in the neighborhood wasn't just noise anymore, it was a challenge. His iPad Pro, the device he loved more than anything, was under threat. And HOA Karen? She thought she could control it with letters and threats. Alex wasn't about to let that happen. He started his day like a detective. First, he gathered all the letters Karen had sent. Each one looked more ridiculous than the last, filled with warnings about disruptive energy and neighborhood harmony. Alex stared at them, shaking his head. How could someone write this seriously? Yet, the letters were official, stamped with the HOA logo, and signed by Karen herself. That meant they had to be taken seriously, or at least, that's what Karen hoped. Alex decided it was time to dig deeper. He opened his laptop and started researching. He looked up HOA rules, state laws, and even online forums about neighbors gone rogue. He discovered something surprising. HOA rules were meant to protect common areas, lawns, and shared spaces, but they didn't have the power to ban someone from using an electronic device in their own home. A grin spread across Alex's face. Karen's iPad ban wasn't just weird, it was illegal. He made a mental note to save all the proof he could find. Screenshots, letters, legal articles, everything. It was going to be his armor against Karen's absurd crusade. But he didn't stop there. Alex knew he needed witnesses. He started talking to his neighbors again, quietly this time, not to gossip but to gather statements. Mrs. Thompson shared how Karen had recently fined her 4 dangerous garden lights, even though the lights were perfectly safe. Mr. Patel explained how Karen once tried to regulate the color of his mailbox. Everyone had stories, funny, strange, or outright ridiculous, but together, they painted a clear picture. Karen loved control more than fairness. Alex even took photos around the neighborhood, documenting how normal life continued despite Karen's warnings. Kids played with tablets in their yards, neighbors watched TV through open windows, and pets ran freely without interference. None of it caused disruptive energy, yet Karen's obsession made it seem otherwise. By mid-afternoon, Alex had a folder full of evidence. He leaned back in his chair, reviewing his collection, letters, photos, screenshots, and neighbor statements. He felt like a lawyer preparing for a trial, except his courtroom was his living room and his opponent was the most stubborn HOA president anyone had ever met. But as he worked, a small knot of anxiety crept in. What if Karen escalated things before he was ready? What if she showed up at his door with some new, even crazier rule? Alex knew she was unpredictable. She thrived on control, and anyone who challenged her might become her next target. Determined, Alex devised a plan. He would not confront Karen without strategy. He would be calm, collected, and armed with undeniable proof. No yelling, no arguing, just facts. And if that didn't work? He would take it to the next level, the authorities. After all, the law was on his side, and Karen's obsession with power was clearly over the line. That evening, Alex tested his iPad for the first time in a day without guilt. He drew, he studied, and he even played a little game, but this time with purpose. Every sketch, every note, every tap on the screen felt like a small act of defiance. Karen wanted to control it? Fine. she wasn't going to take it quietly. Before bed, Alex left a note for his neighbors, a kind but subtle call to support each other. "If Karen tries to overreach again, we need to stay calm and collect proof," he wrote. "Together, we can make sure common sense wins." As he turned off the lights, he felt a mix of nerves and excitement. The battle wasn't over, it was just beginning. But for the first time, Alex didn't feel powerless. He had evidence, support, and determination. And if HOA Karen thought she could bully him into giving up his iPad, she was about to discover just how wrong she was. Tomorrow, the confrontation would begin. But tonight, Alex could sleep knowing he had prepared. And somewhere, across the street, Karen was probably making her own plans, unaware that Alex was already 10 steps ahead. The calm of the neighborhood had vanished. The storm of ridiculous rules, tension, and laughter was rising, and Alex was ready to meet it head-on. The next afternoon, Alex could feel it in the air. Today was going to be different. He had spent hours gathering evidence, talking to neighbors, and planning his response. But nothing could prepare him for what awaited at the HOA meeting. Karen was already there, clipboard in hand, standing like a general at the front of a small community room. Her sunglasses reflected the fluorescent lights above, hiding any hint of doubt. Alex had walked in cautiously, trying to remain calm, but every step felt heavier than the last. This wasn't just a neighborhood discussion, it felt like stepping into enemy territory. "Good afternoon, everyone," Karen began, her voice crisp and commanding. "We are here to discuss electronics in our community. Some devices have been reported as causing disturbances." She paused dramatically, giving the illusion of gravitas. "And yes," she added, glancing at Alex, "that includes iPads." A ripple of stifled laughter ran through the room, but Karen's eyes didn't miss a thing. Alex clenched his fists subtly under the table. This was absurd, but he had prepared for exactly this moment. He raised his hand. "Actually, Karen, I have some information I'd like to share," he said, keeping his voice calm but firm. "I checked the HOA rules and state law. There's nothing that bans electronics in personal homes. And here's the proof." Alex projected his evidence on a small screen: letters, photos, screenshots, neighbor statements. One by one, he explained how Karen's rules were not only ridiculous but illegal. He kept his tone respectful, but each slide made Karen shift uncomfortably. Karen's lips pressed tightly together. She tried to interject, saying, "But energy emissions." Alex cut her off politely. "Even the energy emissions you mentioned are unproven and not a violation of any law. Using an iPad doesn't harm the neighborhood." Karen's eyes narrowed. Her clipboard shook slightly in her hands as she tried to regain control. "This is about harmony and community standards," she insisted. Alex leaned forward. "Harmony doesn't mean fear, Karen. And rules don't give one person the power to dictate everyone else's life." The room was silent. Even the neighbors who had been quiet before were staring. Some were nodding subtly, clearly relieved someone was finally standing up. The tension was thick, like a balloon ready to pop. Karen tried one last tactic. She pointed to Alex's iPad. "But think about the precedent. If we allow this, where does it end? Next, everyone will want devices. Chaos." Alex smiled, trying to mask his disbelief. "Actually, Karen, respecting people's rights keeps order. Forcing people to give up their electronics creates chaos. And the law is on my side." A murmur of agreement ran through the room. Karen's authority, which had seemed absolute just days ago, was faltering. She realized she wasn't in control anymore, at least not in this room. After what felt like an eternity, Karen closed her mouth tightly and tapped her clipboard. Alex could see a flicker of frustration, maybe even admiration hidden somewhere beneath the surface, but she didn't argue further. She simply said, "We'll review this." Alex left the meeting with a mix of relief and triumph. The confrontation wasn't a complete victory, but it was enough. Karen's rules were challenged publicly, and the neighborhood had seen it. His iPad was safe, for now, but more importantly, he had taken a stand. Outside, neighbors came up to congratulate him quietly. "I was scared to even speak up," Mrs. Thompson whispered.
"Thank you for doing this." Alex nodded. "It's not just about me.
It's about standing up for what's right, even when it seems ridiculous." As he walked home, he glanced across the street at Karen's house. She was inside, pacing, likely plotting her next move.
Alex couldn't help but smile.
The battle wasn't over, but he had made it clear, no one, not even HOA Karen, could intimidate him into giving up something that mattered. That night, Alex set up his iPad by the window, drawing and working freely, feeling a sense of victory. But deep down, he knew Karen's obsession wasn't finished.
This confrontation was just one round in a larger, absurd war. And Alex was ready for whatever came next.
The calm was gone. The neighborhood had changed. And in that new tension, a story of defiance, courage, and yes, humor was unfolding. After the tense HOA meeting, Alex knew something had to change. Karen wasn't going to quietly accept that her iPad ban had been challenged. She had already proven she could obsess over the smallest details and twist them into rules.
If he waited, the absurdity would continue and maybe escalate.
That evening, Alex sat at his desk, his iPad open in front of him, fingers tapping thoughtfully on the keyboard. He had gathered all the evidence, letters, screenshots, photos, and neighbor testimonies, but he needed someone with authority, someone who could actually stop Karen once and for all. He picked up the phone and dialed the state attorney's office. His heart pounded. He had never contacted anyone like this before, but he knew it was the right step.
"Hello," he said when someone answered.
"I live in a neighborhood where a homeowners association president is trying to ban personal electronics, and I need legal guidance." There was a pause, and then a calm, professional voice replied, "We'll need the documents."
"Can you send us copies of the letters and evidence?"
Alex quickly attached everything he had compiled.
Letters with Karen's signature, photos showing normal iPad use, neighbor statements, all of it.
He sent it off, feeling a mix of nerves and hope.
The next day, a letter arrived from the state attorney's office.
Alex opened it carefully, almost holding his breath. The letter was formal, professional, and clear. It stated that HOA Karen's actions were not supported by law, that her ban on electronics in private homes was invalid, and that any attempt to enforce it could result in legal consequences.
Alex couldn't help but grin.
For the first time, it felt like the scales of power had shifted. Karen's rules, her obsession, her absurd attempts to control the neighborhood, they were officially over. But as much as the letter brought relief, Alex knew Karen wouldn't give up quietly. True to form, she didn't. The next morning, she showed up at his door, clipboard in hand, sunglasses hiding any hint of doubt. "I received a letter," she said carefully, "but it doesn't change my concerns about electronics in the neighborhood."
Alex smiled politely. "Actually, Karen, it does. The state attorney has made it clear that you cannot enforce these rules. My iPad is completely legal." Karen's face twisted, a mix of frustration and disbelief. She tried to argue further, but Alex stayed calm, showing her the letter again. The words seemed to sting. Her authority, once absolute, was now meaningless. Finally, after a long pause, she huffed and stormed back across the street, muttering something about next time. Alex closed the door and leaned against it, feeling a surge of triumph. The battle was won not with anger, yelling, or chaos, but with preparation, evidence, and the law on his side. Word quickly spread through the neighborhood. Neighbors whispered about how Alex had defeated HOA Karen, using logic and legal authority. Some quietly admitted they had been afraid to speak up before, but now they felt empowered. The balance in the community had shifted. That evening, Alex sat by the window with his iPad, drawing, playing, and laughing quietly. The device that had once been a source of anxiety was now a symbol of victory. He realized that standing up, gathering proof, and remaining calm had changed everything. Karen had tried to intimidate him, but she had underestimated determination combined with knowledge. Yet, even as the neighborhood slowly returned to its peaceful rhythm, Alex knew one thing: HOA Karen was unpredictable. She might find another way to assert control. But now, armed with confidence, support, and legal backing, he was ready for whatever absurd challenge she would throw next. The storm had passed, for now. The iPad was safe,
The neighborhood had learned a lesson in courage, and Alex felt a quiet satisfaction. Sometimes, the biggest battles were won not by shouting the loudest but by being smart, prepared, and brave enough to stand up for what was right. And somewhere across the street, Karen was probably plotting her next move, completely unaware that the world had changed. The sun rose over the neighborhood, painting the streets in warm gold, and for the first time in days, Alex felt a real sense of peace. The iPad Pro sat on his desk, untouched by fear or letters, glowing quietly as if to celebrate its victory.
After all the absurd warnings, confrontations, and late-night research, the battle with HOA Karen had finally ended, at least for now. Alex walked outside, stretching and enjoying the morning air. Neighbors waved, some smiling knowingly, some chuckling quietly as they passed. It was clear that the rumor of Karen's defeat had traveled fast. Her obsession with controlling electronics was now a story, a shared joke, and a cautionary tale all in one. Across the street, Karen stood on her porch, arms crossed, glaring at the neighborhood as if her fury could ripple across yards and intimidate everyone. But this time, Alex could almost laugh at her. Karen had tried to ban an iPad, argued about disruptive energy, and even shown up at meetings like a general with a clipboard army. And yet, she had been shut down by the law and common sense. Alex's neighbors began to emerge from their homes, some carrying coffee, others walking their dogs, all sharing quiet looks of solidarity. Mrs. Thompson gave Alex a thumbs up from across the street. "You did it," she whispered with a grin. "We were all waiting for someone to stand up." Alex waved back, a small smile on his face. "We did it," he corrected gently. It wasn't just him, it was the community, the evidence, the courage to fight back. Karen might have been loud and intimidating, but logic, preparation, and law had won. Later that afternoon, Alex sat in his room, iPad in hand, drawing freely. Colors danced across the screen, and characters came to life. Every stroke, every sketch, felt like a small victory, a reclaiming of freedom. The iPad wasn't just a tool anymore, it was a symbol of standing up to absurd rules, of courage, and of not letting fear control your life. Of course, HOA Karen didn't disappear entirely. From time to time, she could be seen inspecting her neighbors' yards, muttering about this or that violation that didn't exist. But now, Alex could smile at her antics without fear. The threat was gone, the absurdity was just entertainment. One evening, Alex's younger neighbor, Timmy, knocked on his door. "Do you think Karen will try to ban something else next?" he asked, wide-eyed. Alex laughed softly. "Probably. But now we know how to deal with it. Just stay calm, gather evidence, and don't let ridiculous rules scare you." Timmy grinned. "Like superheroes?" Alex smiled, tapping his iPad. "Exactly. Every iPad user is a little superhero." The neighborhood slowly returned to normal. Kids played freely, neighbors laughed, and life went on. The calm mornings were back, but with a new awareness, HOA Karen was still there, still watching, still plotting. And that made life a little more interesting. As Alex looked out the window at the sun setting behind the rooftops, he realized that even in a quiet neighborhood, drama and absurdity could be found. But with courage, humor, and a bit of strategy, it could be survived and even enjoyed. The iPad Pro sat on his desk, safe, glowing softly. The battle was won. The war of absurdity was paused. And Alex, with a grin, knew that some stories in the neighborhood never truly ended, they just became legends, whispered between fences, porches, and driveways. And somewhere, across the street, Karen was probably planning her next big rule, completely unaware that her next target might already be ready.